This is my response to the developing world's education questions. Question number 1, why would people fight against something that would help them the most? I'm going to take this from the standpoint of education in Afghanistan and how the Taliban issued a law declaring that women are not allowed to go to school or get an education. About the same time that this law came out, there was a 14-year-old Afghan girl by the name of Malala Yousafzai, and she started a women's education blog where she advocated young women going to school and getting an education. CNN did an interview of her in 2011. I'm going to show you a clip from that interview.
So why do you risk your life to raise your voice?
Because I thought that my people need me, and I shall raise my voice because if I didn't raise my voice now, so when will I raise my voice?
Some people might say you're 14. You don't have any rights. You just have to listen to mom and dad.
No, I have rights. I have the right of education. I have the right to play. I have the right to sing. I have the right to talk. I have the right to go to market. I have the right to speak up.
Well, what if you give that advice to a girl who may not be as courageous as you, and she says, Malala, I'm afraid. I just want to stay in my room.
So I'll tell her that don't stay in your room, because God will ask you on the day of judgment that where were you when your people were asking you, when your school fellows were asking you, and when your school was asking you that I am being blown up. When your people need you, you should come up, you should come, and you should stand up for their rights.
If you were the president of this country, how would you handle the Taliban?
First of all, I would like to build so many schools in this country, because education is the must thing. If you don't have educated people, so the Taliban will come to your area. But if you have educated people, they will not come.
Well, educated or not, the Taliban come with bombs and guns. How do you handle that? I mean, do you still talk to them, or do you call in the army? What do you do?
First of all, I would like to talk to them.
What would you say?
I would say that, what are your demands? What do you want?
We want you to shut down the school, is what they'd say.
So I'll tell them that don't shut our schools, because school, I will...
You're 14. You have no idea what you're talking about. We're going to shut down your school.
So, give me a second. So first of all, I will show them Quran, what Quran says. Quran didn't say that girls are not allowed to go to school.
So as you can see, Malala really knows what she's talking about. She's 14, yet she knows the value of education, and she understands the impact that it can have on the women in her country. During the week of conference last month, October 10th, Malala was riding the bus home from school when the Taliban stopped it and shot her twice, wounding her and 2 others. She was flown to a hospital in the UK where they removed the bullets, but it took about a month for her to recover from it. But what impresses me most about the women in Afghanistan is their courage. They are routinely poisoned and gassed, and yet they still go to school every day and get their education. My question is why? Why does the Taliban care so much if these girls are getting education? As Malala stated, the Quran says nothing about restricting their education, so why make a law about it? I couldn't really find a straight answer about this, but I have a theory as to part of what's influencing this. I have some pictures I'm going to show you real quick. As you look at these pictures, notice that there's a division in the girls and boys as they're growing up. The boys are out having fun, playing, and doing basically whatever they want, while the girls are taught to stay at home and cook and clean. And I just want to know what happens to these boys as they've grown up. They are taught that they're allowed to play while the girls work at home, so they're growing into men who expect to have the control and power in the world while the women cook their meals and serve them. It's no wonder that even subconsciously they think that women don't need an education, and if they did get an education, that they might start to question their role in society, and that they wouldn't want to stay at home all the time, and that the men would be forced to, like, cook or something. Which brings us to the next question. What is the potential that is being lost when these kids are stopped from getting an education, and what could they have achieved otherwise? If you look back at Malala, she is simply extraordinary. She is 14 years old, living in an impoverished country that's at war, and yet she obviously understands the world in a way that most of us don't. You can just see the potential that she has. She said that she wants to be a doctor, and I believe that she could do it. But the one thing that stops everybody from getting the things that they want is an education. So when we don't have that, we literally lose everything that we have. We can't achieve the things that we want out of our lives, our world, society. So to answer your question, like, we don't have anything when we don't have education. How can the appreciation of the deprived, such as India and Brazil, be spread to those who don't have as much, like in Japan and Romania? That's a good question. I think it's one that we struggle with even in the United States. I went to a high school that was K through 12, and I noticed that kids aren't invested in their education. They're more worried about their gadgets and video games than they are in education. And I wish they could just see kids from other countries and see how they live and how much they want to have an education. My only answer to that is to teach them early how to love learning. Don't place so much value on our 3.0 worldly things. Focus on education and learning in your home from a young age. Maybe instead of another flat screen, we could put maybe a bookshelf in our homes and fill them with real books that our children would be interested in, like science and literature and like real subjects. And it doesn't even have to be like scientific things. It could just be like novels and stuff. Just real learning rather than video games all the time. PBS also had some good ideas on how to promote education in your home. Number one is to put on a happy face. At the end of a day, you know, you're busy, you're tired, you don't really want to, this sounds bad, like, be enthusiastic when your kids come home from school. But when you say later, you can tell them about your day later, it kind of squashes their joy. When they want to tell you about something that they learned in school, embrace it and tell them how wonderful it is and just match their excitement. Number two is table talk. Talk about what your kids are learning in school. Get involved in it. Maybe you could learn something new too. And maybe when the meal is finished, pass around some papers that they brought home and discuss and admire them. Number three, don't stow it, show it. We all, you know, when you were younger and you brought home like 50 different projects every day. Well, maybe instead of just throwing all those away, pick a couple of the favorites and display them in your home, because it fosters just pride in your work and in your education. And number four, I'm not going to read all of these, but let's change what did you get to what did you learn, rather than focusing on the tests and their grades. Focus on the concepts that they're learning and how much they're learning. 5. What is our role in education and how can we help our kids? How can we best serve the world? Our first obligation in education is to get one. The best way we can help ourselves, our kids, and the world is become knowledgeable and then go out and try and change the world. By getting a good education, we can teach their children, and that just starts the cycle and the domino effect of we teach them, they teach their kids, they teach their kids, and it has exponential effects. Oh, sorry, this is the last question. What is to be done to keep our kids off the streets? That is a good question. I think it's one that a lot of countries have a hard time with. And there are just so many factors when it comes to these kids going to the streets. I think in reference to the boy we saw on our homework assignment who lived in Brazil, I think his mom did a really good job handling that issue. She did a couple things. First, she gave him something to live for. He said repeatedly how much he loved learning and how much he loved soccer and how he wanted to be a professional soccer player. And if you make it clear to your kids from a young age that they can't have those dreams if they're out on the streets, they'll be more apt to stay in the home and try and achieve those goals rather than finding something else on the street. The second thing she did is she kept him busy. He was in after-school programs, and when she couldn't be there, she had somebody looking after him. As my mom always said, idle mind is the devil's workshop, or something like that. If you're not doing anything, of course you're going to go out onto the streets to find something to do. And number 3, she had honest concern and took care of him and tried to keep him in school. And that is it. Thanks for watching.